Got Your Back Podstream is brought to you by Mr. Dirk. From casual wear to suits and formals, Mr. Dirk helps you find the perfect fit with the right look for any occasion. Step up your wardrobe at MrDirk.com.
Oh boy, do we have a lot to talk about after this game. Now, Oiler fan, I know you don't love the results, but you got to admit, that was a pretty entertaining hockey game, filled with mistakes and storylines, and we hit the break with plenty of meat on the bone to keep Oiler fan talking for a couple of weeks during the Four Nations face-off. Welcome to Got Your Back, folks. You know what? Lots to talk about. We got a guy that likes to talk a lot joining us tonight. Struddy is away, so Gregor's stepping in and is going to play tonight. Thrilled to have Jason Gregor along for the ride tonight from Sports 1440 and Oilers Nation. We will get to him in just a moment. Rob Brown will be joining us as well. And Zubie is at the helm at Growler Media World Headquarters in Kelowna. As always, our show brought to you by our title sponsor, Play Alberta. Why choose Play Alberta? Well, just ask any hockey fan who loves odds boosts and player props or same-game parlays, slots players who love the massive jackpots, or lottery players who can grab last-minute tickets on the go. Deposit today, get a $50 free bet with the code GYB02. Visit playalberta.ca. Made the drive home after the game, so got home to the Adrenaline Diesel studio. Adrenaline is a Caterpillar recognized and authorized dealer and repair facility. For expert service for your CAT engine, visit adrenalinediesel.ca. Welcome back to Got Your Back, Jason Gregor. You know, it pissed me off last time you were here because you popped up. Your studio is better than mine. Your camera is better than mine. Once you start talking, I'm sure we're going to find out that your microphone is better than mine. I'm a little rattled here, buddy. You're crisp and clear.
Well, that's nothing on me, buddy. I'm not the technical guy, but I have a smart technical guy who bought me all my technical stuff, so that's good.
You just have to not screw it up.
Now, you guys say growler. Do you even know how to do a growler in the gym? Is that what do you guys growler? Is that based on your physical workouts?
Oh, I don't know. Zubie, hop in here. You're the one that named your company, Growler Media, Zubie. Do you have any idea what a growler is in the gym? Zubie,
not in the gym. It's named after the bottle of beer for my company.
Oh, nice. All right. That's more fitting then. That makes
it
sense.
is, yes.
Like it. Yeah.
But I'd like to know, you tell us what a growler is?
Well, it's hard to explain. I'd have to show. I'll get Rishaug to do it next time, and I'll video it, and I'll show you guys.
There we go. So, don't get Gregor talking about workouts.
You know what a bear plank is? Do you know what a bear plank is?
Well, I mean, I know how to do planks. I don't know. I use my ab and I do planks. What is it? What's a bear? What's the difference between a bear plank?
Your knees up and you hover your knees above. You're kind of bent, and your knees are hovered amongst it. Yeah. So then you can go back. It's it's a unique move. I just thought, now because I know you've been doing a lot of yoga, I thought that maybe the growler is just part of your new routine.
There we go. We got Mr. Fitness. Can we get Struds back? If you're gonna go all Mr. Who's the fitness guy? Richard Simmons? Was he the fitness guy with the little shorts and the big hair?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not paying for Richard Simmons on the show today.
About as tight as Richard Simmons, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Struddy short.
Hey, by the way,
Brownie's hairdo.
By the way, did you fire Jason Strudwick off your show because he was mean to you all the time? Because I'm kind of thinking about it. I don't know how you did as many years with him. It is an absolute browbeating every show, and it's kind of getting me down. So I'm coming to you for a little moral support, Greg. You dealt with it for years.
Oh, buddy, it was lots of fun. Struddy loves giving it, but he can take it too. So you got to fire back. That's trust me. We have there's lots of ammunition. Old marble mouth Struddy. You're like, I don't even have to say much, and he can dig his own ditch.
I know he's amazing at it. Anyways, no Struds tonight. So Greg's. We appreciate you jumping in. We'll have Rob Brown here momentarily, and there's just a ton to talk about from this hockey game. So let's get to it. It is our breakdown brought to you by the Alberta Ram dealers. The 2025 Ram 1500 is Motor Trend's Truck of the Year. Visit your Alberta Ram dealer to get into this award-winning truck at a competitive price, capable, stylish, powerful, It is Ram, just a beautiful looking truck inside and out. Okay, Gregs, we got 2 full segments here to break down everything that we saw from that game tonight, and there's so much. We almost got to, break it up a little bit here. But I think the place that we should start tonight is with an Oiler team that just got in its own way with big, big mistakes. And we're going to get to Skinner, and we're going to get to Bouchard and all of those things. But big picture here tonight, man, they got in their own way a little bit tonight and couldn't dig themselves out of an early hole.
Well, that's been a trend here for, I think, the last few weeks, right? Like there was a game against the Sabres that Skinner basically won them the game. I thought Skinner helped them a lot in the St. Louis game where they had, he robbed Robert Thomas twice in the first period. And so that's been an issue. Obviously, he allowed 2 goals tonight that he definitely would like back. There's no debating that. But, the Bouchard play and the power play is just, it's so nonchalant, and that's an issue. Zach Hyman, who doesn't make many errors, the error he made, in the final 4 minutes, and he owned up to it. It's just like you can't make that mistake. Nugent Hopkins on the 3rd goal, just I don't know where he was going, right? Like that should have been just an easy. They had more men in the zone, and they end up just leaving him wide open, and Lehkonen gets an easy goal. So when they made some glaring errors there's no question tonight, and that really hasn't been their MO under Knobloch for long stretches. They played pretty well, but the last 2 weeks here, I think it's fair to say that they've had way too many 8 to 10 bell errors.
For sure. And more guys were culprits too. Connor McDavid had, I don't know if I loved his back check on the Makar goal. He was one of the ones coming back, and he's one of the guys that should have been filling in that high slot. And then you also had him, I don't know if I would call it a flyby because it was kind of a 2-on-1 situation, but shorthanded, he was the guy back and probably could have made more firm a play on Cale Makar. Like, Cale Makar is the dangerous player. He has the puck there. McDavid kind of played it like he might have been going to the other guy. So a couple plays there from McDavid. There were mistakes spread throughout the entire lineup tonight, without question. Gregs, let's get to Chris Knobloch's decision to pull Stuart Skinner after the first period. So there's some depth to this decision, right? You're very much in the game. It's not like you're out of the game. It's a 1-goal game. Yes, two of the goals were not very good. No question about that. You're heading into a break. So, no, this is your starting goaltender. You're heading into a break, and this is, what you're leaving them with. So I would say I would characterize this as a gutsy pull with your starting goaltender in this situation. I'm okay with it, and I'll get to that in a minute. What do you think?
Well, it's only the second time Skinner's been pulled all year. The first, of course, was the season opener against the Jets, where everybody was awful. Knobloch, a lot of his buttons he's pushed have worked. I didn't like it simply for the fact that I thought Skinner made 2 big saves before the bad goals. Like in the first 3 minutes of the game, I thought he made 2 good saves, and then he made a really good good
save,
saves.
save. In mind, the first 3 things in my notes are save. 3 good saves early from Skinner, and then he didn't make the good saves.
Yeah, like the McKinnon one, I'm like, okay, but the Makar one was the worst for sure, right? Like you could tell his reaction right away. He's like, oh my God, I got beat on the triangle on the side. It was awful. But then he made 1 decent save right before the McDavid breakaway that, because remember it's 3-2, I look over and all of a sudden each goalie makes a big save. And then he makes that really good save with about 30 seconds left in the period. And I'm like, all right, he showed that he'd bounce back and make some saves. It's 3-2. It's not 3-1. It's not 5-2. It's 3-2. And Pickard comes out for the second. And I don't think Pickard had to make any sort of reasonable save at all in the second period. Any goalie could have played that period. And I just feel like here you have Skinner, who won you a game against Buffalo. I'd argue was a main reason why you beat St. Louis. And then in 2 bad goals, he's out. But you've got guys that are making grade A errors all the time that they're not getting sat out. Like, I think it's too easy to sit out the goaltender because other guys, they make errors, they miss a shift or 2, and they're right back in it. So I would have liked to see, okay, you know what? Let's give Skinner the chance to fight back. That's maybe more so I was about. And because of the break, if they're playing on Sunday, I probably could have understood it more. But because they're not playing now for 15 days, I would have liked to give the opportunity to let your goalie fight back. Because let's be honest, it wasn't like the goalie at the other end was standing on his head, right? Blackwood wasn't outstanding in tonight's game. He allowed 4 goals and under 30 shots. He wasn't ideal. And, there wasn't like the Draisaitl goal is probably the one where you say, hey, I don't think he had much of a chance on. But I would have liked to say, hey, let's give our starter a chance to fight back.
Yeah, it's a great point. These two teams could meet in the playoffs, and these two goalies could be the guys that face off against one another. Blackwood was given the opportunity to find his footing and work his way back into this thing a little bit. Skinner was not. This is not like Chris Knoblauch. He doesn't do this a lot. More often than not, when his players, and in particular core players, are struggling, he goes the other way and leans into them. We normally see that from him. This time, he makes the decision to get away from Stu Skinner, to sit him on the bench for the rest of the game, to go to Calvin Pickard. Now, I believe that Calvin Pickard's play recently and his record recently makes that a much easier decision to make. I think the fact that both were clearly pretty bad goals probably had him, gave him the ammo that he needed, Greg's. But there's another element that I sensed from Chris Knoblauch tonight, and that was some accountability. I think that this Oiler team is in a zone where there's some details in their game that are kind of coming out, and they're getting a little rough here and there. And I sense a head coach that's wanting to up the accountability level a little bit. I think that's what we saw with Stuart Skinner getting the hook and not getting the benefit of the doubt. You come out and you're not ready to go. There's some accountability there. I think that's okay for Skinner to feel that. Evan Bouchard, I know he got back on the power play, but I'm telling you, after that giveaway, he didn't get another even strength shift for a while after that. They rolled through him at even strength for a couple of rotations. That will be noticed by Evan Bouchard. So I think it was as much about accountability for Skinner and accountability for the group, and I think everybody sees that, Greg's. And I was really critical of Jay Woodcroft for not holding his group accountable enough. I'm okay when I see Knoblauch doing it.
Yeah, and you know what? That's fair. Like I said, I don't have it's not a major issue for me. I just think because of the break and the fact that, like, if you're going to pull him, then pull him right after the second goal, right? I guess because you let him stay in the period. And after that, he wasn't bad for the rest of that first period. I thought he found his game after that. And actually, he had found his game, as you mentioned, save. Early on, he was okay in the first few saves of the game. But those are 2 goals you definitely want your goalie to make. I don't have a problem with it. And I guess I would say this. Obviously, they feel like Skinner's got to be a key part of their team. And so maybe there's a conversation that they have with him afterwards, and that could be good. But, if you're going to do that for Skinner, great. Then there's some other guys that eventually you're going to have to do it with, right? And one of those guys, and I don't want to get off topic, and we'll get into him later, but there's a forward that I really want to talk about that I think has been maybe the least noticeable forward on this team all year.
Oh, I like it. Let's tease that for the next segment. Gregor's going to lean into an Oiler forward coming up in our takeaways segment. The guys at Martin Motorsports will like that little tease there. Let's get to our Weiss Johnson soundbox and hear what some of the players and coaches are saying. Weiss Johnson's offering 10% off any new furnace installed before March 1st. If you need to replace your furnace because it stopped working, or if it's just getting old and unreliable and you want a newer, better model that is more efficient, mention you heard it on the Got Your Back pod, and when you book your estimate, you'll get 10% off your new furnace price. Visit Weiss-Johnson.com today. Play that jingle.
Weiss Johnson, whoa.
All right, let's get to head coach Chris Knoblauch on his decision to pull Stuart Skinner.
Yeah, I don't think he had much opportunity on the third one, but he made a nice save at the end of the period. But the first 2 I felt could have had. I thought he could have had those. I didn't think he found those, was looking for him right. But and Pick's been winning us a lot of games, and we need a little boost for our team. And, he's pretty good record of late, and felt that he could come in and do the job.
Greg's, how do you think Stuart Skinner will react to this? And think about the fact that this is what he's left with over a 4 Nations break where, I mean, he would have wanted to be on this Four Nations team. There's been some frustration. There's been some disappointment. Brownie, holy smokes, hold the phone. Worlds are colliding. Worlds colliding right now. Rob Brown and Jason Gregor on the same airwaves. I love it, boys. Has this happened before? Is this a first?
No, I think we did it earlier this year, didn't we, Greg?
Yeah, we did
think so,
earlier.
did we?
Yeah. Brown has been on
Yeah,
my show before, so.
Oh, I forgot. Oh, so it's not that big a deal then. I thought it was going to be.
No,
something
I'm
epic.
still excited. I'm really excited
Yeah.
right now. I mean, I look to my, this way.
You're
Way better looking.
Your hands on you. Well, that's true. It is way better looking. I'd agree with that. But I thought I was keeping you awake there. You're just dreaming about going to Mexico right now or Costa Rica. Are you flying into Liberia?
Yes, I am. Yeah, my wife and I are going down there.
I'll tell you where to go, buddy. I love that place.
Yeah, I do too. I've been there years ago. So, hey, was there a game tonight? We're going to talk about that.
Yeah, there was a game tonight. We'll get to that stuff in Brownie. We'll get to the BS and Brownie points and such. Brownie, you hopping in a good time. Greg's and I just finished giving our opinion on Knobloch's decision to pull Stuart Skinner, and we just heard from Chris Knobloch about why he did it. Greg's and I have somewhat differing opinions on it. I won't tell you who thinks what. What say you, good sir?
Well, I listened to Knobloch on our show afterwards, and he talked about that he felt the third goal he had no chance on, but the first two he probably should have had. He said that Pickard's been playing well. He has. He's won, I think, 10 of his last 11. I heard at the end there's some of the stuff he was saying about how Skinner's going to go into this break with this is the last thing in his mind. But Skinner wasn't good in the first, and I had no problem. I thought Calvin Pickard came in and played very well. I mean, even on the game-winning goal, he made an unbelievable save on McKinnon. And then the Oilers, there was no back check, and three guys got puck watching. I had no problem with that. Your job as a coach isn't to worry about feelings. To me, your job as a coach, give yourself the best chance of winning. And to me, Stuart Skinner did not have a good start to the game, and they gave Calvin Pickard the chance. So I was fine with it, and I was not surprised. I mean, we get to watch the jumbotron as they come out of the rink, and when all of a sudden Calvin Pickard is 800 feet tall, you're like, oh, he did make the move.
Greg, do you want to debate that at all?
No, hey, I get why he did it. To me, I think at times your goalie, if you don't pull him right after the second goal, and then you admit that he made a big save after, and he actually made two of them after the second goal, I'm like, why not let him keep battling? It's because it's 3-2, and the other goalie wasn't playing great either. So that, to me, I think, hey, because the one thing Skinner has shown in his career, when he struggles, which he has, he can bounce back. Right? We saw it in the playoffs last year. Look at his final 15 games after being benched for 2 games. He allowed 2 goals or less 11 out of 15 times. So I think Skinner, and that's why I don't think the coach is worried necessarily about how Skinner will react, because the one thing Skinner has shown, he can bounce back. He'll have struggles. Last year he started slow, bounced back, and then was like top 5 in the league, under Knobloch. And, this year after a slow start in October, like most of the team, he's bounced back, and he's being top 5 in the NHL with Blackwood in save percentage and goals against average for the last 3 months, right? Since mid-November. So he has a history of bouncing back. He also has a history of having bad games, and I get it. So I guess tonight was one where I felt like I would have wanted to see here. You know what, Stu? We're going to let you fight out of this. Why don't you show us what you got?
To go on that point, Jason, and I agree. There's been a number of games where the Oilers have fallen behind, and if they let in that next goal in the second or third period, they're done. And Stuart Skinner's been excellent. He's got this ability to push behind a bad first 20 and all of a sudden shut the door. The guy on the other end, I thought both goalies played poorly. Blackwood, the first 40 minutes was not good at all. But he had a chance in the third period to show. And again, if these two teams play in the playoffs, it's not Calvin Pickard playing. So you want to say, all right, here, Stuart Skinner, I can understand that. Go out there. Go earn this. Go win this. So, yeah, I can see your point. I wasn't surprised, but absolutely I can see your point on why I would keep Skinner in there.
Well, and when I asked Chris Knobloch, like sometimes post-game, Greg's, you've done it many times, you can ask a pointed question to the coach about something specific, or you can kind of lob one up there a little bit for him and just see what he's thinking. So I said, what do you think the difference was tonight? Just wanted to see what he said. And he said, being down early. like a couple of goals being down early or something like that. But he pointed to those 2 goals specifically. He was agitated by those 2 goals going in on this night. And so he did something about it. The other point I made, Brownie, is I sense that accountability is something that Knobloch is not afraid to use. And I think that we saw some accountability for Stuart Skinner tonight. He wasn't ready to go, let a couple of bad goals in. He didn't get to play the rest of the game. I think when Evan Bouchard made a brutal mistake on a power play, he got rolled over a few times at even strength. Now, he did go back out on the man advantage, which is, the carrot and the stick. But there was some accountability there, too. I think part of what we saw on Skinner tonight was Knobloch knowing that accountability has to matter for everybody at a certain point.
Well, it actually, the Bouchard turnover, he took the whole first unit off. And there was a minute 20 left in that power play where we don't usually see it. Now, I actually would have, and they scored, I would have actually, the next power play, started my second unit and really sent a message, because the Oilers 6 seconds or whatever it was when Leon scored on his power play, I mean, that was a pretty set play off the faceoff. The other power plays the Oilers had, their first unit was not good tonight. So I would have started their second unit. There's got to be accountability. And Stuart Skinner wasn't good. And I didn't hear if he talked after the game. He's usually the first to own it when he didn't have a good game. But I can see both your points on that. I can see the accountability, and I also can see, you know what, he's our starter. This would be the best team that we've played in a while outside of Toronto. Let's give him a chance to see what he can do. But Pickard played well, as he usually does. But this was another sloppy game defensively by the Edmonton Oilers.
Okay, we're kind of in for a penny, in for a pound here on the Stuart Skinner discussion. So we're going to keep it up for the rest of this segment before we get to our first break. It's naturally going to come up. Anytime Stuart Skinner lets in a bad goal, let alone gets pulled in a game, it's going to come up, right? Do the Oilers need to address a goaltending issue? Is Stuart Skinner the right guy? Pierre LeBrun wrote an article in The Athletic today. Talked to Stan Bowman. Stan Bowman basically made it crystal clear. Like, I'm not sure where this is coming from. Kelvin Pickard has been great. Stuart Skinner's been excellent. Don't really understand where this stuff comes from. In the same article, LeBrun alludes to the fact that he believes John Gibson would waive his no trade to come to Edmonton or north of the border. I will say the same thing that I've said every time Skinner has come up. We're not going to have this conversation every time Skinner lets in a bad goal, but because he got pulled tonight, we'll indulge in it. I still believe the Oilers believe in Stuart Skinner. I still believe he will be the guy that starts for them in the playoffs, and it'll have to be something pretty dramatic between now and the trade deadline for that to change. Greg's, any crack in that theory?
No, none. It's the only people bringing it up are trolls online. Like, let's be real here. There's no...
Well, someone said Stoff brought it up post-game. I don't know if he did or not. I'm not going to put words in his mouth, Brownie. No. You were on the show. Did Stoff say anything?
It must have been after I got off. I wasn't listening.
Again, I didn't hear it. Just someone on the chat was saying it. Yeah, but you say no.
They're not... John Gibson hasn't won a playoff game since 2017. And he's suddenly, after 4 subpar seasons, it's the most volatile position that goes up and down across the league. And because he's had a decent season right now, that's who you're going to go for? Okay, great. But I don't I think it underestimates. Stuart Skinner, can he be up and down at times? Yes. Would you like him to be more consistent? For sure. He's still a fairly young goaltender. But I'll say this. The Edmonton Oilers are 24th in the NHL in high danger scoring chances off the rush. The most common goal in the NHL is a high danger scoring chance off the rush. So I don't care who your goalie is. As we saw in Winnipeg last year, you can have the best goal in the league. If you continually give up high danger scoring chances off the rush, you will get lit up. Plain and simple. The Edmonton Oilers are 6th in the NHL in goals against this year. 6th. Stuart Skinner plays the most games. I don't care as much about expected save percentage, goals against, or what win you or lose you games. And Stuart Skinner for the last 3 months has been fine. He hasn't been all world, but there are bigger issues on the Oilers, and there are other players who have done very little who never get talked about in Edmonton. To me, Stuart Skinner, it's not really a conversation to go and think that you're going to upgrade on him when you look at value of contract and everything else.
I agree, and we've talked about this a lot. I do not believe the Oilers are going to make it a change at all. I think Calvin Pickard has been an excellent backup. His record shows that. I think Stuart Skinner, when the narrative is he can't win you a Stanley Cup, Game 7 on the road, he gave up 2. That's good enough to win game. That's good enough to win you a Stanley Cup. The guy he went against, Bobrovsky, was horrible in a couple of those games in the finals. It's up and down. Stuart Skinner, to me, it's going to be Skinner and Pickard. I believe management believes in him. I believe the coach believes him. And I believe the players believe in him. And that's all that really matters. So I do not believe there will be any move. And I agree with you, the whole Gibson thing. Gibson, he'll be hurt before the season ends anyways.
Okay. The other side of the argument would say, and I don't have the numbers on me, but that Skinner's numbers overall against higher quality teams are pretty rough. And I think, there's a certainly a legitimate thought to be had there. What I would say to that is that if, Stuart Skinner had no history of going up against good teams and performing well when it matters, then sure, maybe you're a little bit more concerned about that. There it is, Stu, 292, 867 versus
that's
top
false.
10 teams.
Like, if we're going to put up stats, at least put up the right ones. Because Colorado's a top 10 team, and he's beat them twice, so it's an incorrect stat.
We're getting various versions of this. We are usually pretty good with our folks on the stream.
No, it's not you guys, but the guy who puts that out, the top, like when you want to cherry pick to get to a very small number, that's what happens, because top 10 teams on Monday aren't top 10 teams on Friday.
Yeah, no, fair point. So, but can we agree that his numbers overall against the top end teams maybe aren't reflective of what, aren't quite as good as what his season stats are? There seems to be, we've heard about it on a few different nights on the show here.
I can go through every playoff team, and I've crunched the numbers. Do you know what most teams' records are against the other playoff teams? 2-3 games above 500, because they're all competitive. Right? So yes, Stuart Skinner is 6-9 against playoff teams this year. 6-9. Now keep in mind, one of those games was a 1-0 loss against Vegas. His team didn't score a goal. He gave up 1 goal. So if they win that game, he's 7-8. It's not great, but it's not nearly as bad as some people like to project. And I can go across the league outside of Hellebuck and look at a lot of goalies, and they're close to 500, because most of the top teams, when they play each other, no one's dominating. There's not a playoff team out there that's got this great record against the other playoff teams. They all beat up on the middle to bottom teams, as they should.
Yeah, 100%.
You sound like a guy that's been doing 4 hours of radio a day arguing about this for the entire season so far. The other thing, and I'll finish my point, is, Stuart Skinner was excellent against really good teams in the playoffs, and his record was good in the playoffs. He's shown he can do it in the playoffs. So the idea that there needs to be some fundamental shift, we've probably spent enough time on it. If that changes, if they come back from the Four Nations and the wheels fall off and it's a disaster, obviously we'll get into it, but we're only going to dedicate so much time to that. He's going to have off nights, and tonight was definitely an off night. Zubie, last thing on Stu Skinner. Hop in here, buddy. Let's get to our DeBoer's Golf Shop and Fitting Center YouTube poll. Are you fired up yet for the upcoming golf season? Gregor's got his lime green pants ready to go. The new 2025 equipment from TaylorMade Ping Callaway arriving at DeBoer's. Get ahead of the fitting rush and schedule your appointment today. Located at 5311 99th Street here in Edmonton. Zubie, take us through the poll.
Sure. So I modified your answers a tiny bit, but same basic idea. So the poll tonight is, what did you think of Knobloch's decision to pull Stu Skinner after the first period? The options that I gave were, you should have done it after the second goal. The second option is it was bang on. Third option is that it was inconsistent or an overreaction. Just as we talked about, we've seen him leave Stu in after 3 goal first periods in the recent past. And the fourth choice is, I hated it.
All right, there you go. And we, at the end of the show, in our Ask Us Anything segment, will bring you the results of that poll. All right, that was a breakdown brought to you by Alberta Ram Dealers. Quick break here. On the other side, Brownie, Greg's teased us. There's a player that he is going to peel into a little bit here, someone he thinks hasn't done enough lately. We don't know who it is yet. People have been guessing. So he's going to chew into someone in the next. So you got a guess, Brownie? You got a guess?
I'm guessing Strudwick. He's been horrible lately on the podcast. Like, I can't even understand a word he's saying.
It's been rough. Like he ate a pack of Colts right before every show, no question. So we'll have, I guess, sort of Gregor's World coming up in the next segment. Lots more to break down from this game as well. You got her locked on to Got Your Back, presented by Play Alberta. Right back.
Thinking of that dream vacation? A quick winter escape? Well, flight delays are dreadful. Hospital visits, not fun. Alberta Blue Cross gives you coverage for emergency medical care, cancellations, and lost baggage. Flexibility, reliability, even lounge access or a hotel if the delay is too much. Plus 24/7 travel support ensures you're never left out in the cold. Visit ab.bluecross.ca/travel to learn more.
Specializing in heavy-duty commercial truck powertrain repair, performance, tuning, and part sales, Adrenaline Diesel's professional team is ready to assist you with all of your needs, from the simplest oil changes to engine conversions, overhauls, and engine modifications. Featuring an all-new online parts store and machine shop to manufacture, replicate, or repair parts, visit adrenalinediesel.ca.
Oh, Zubie, breaking out the remix. Love it. Time now for takeaways, brought to you by Horizon Ag and Turf. Horizon Ag and Turf is your one-stop shop for all things snow removal, and they're clearing out their Ariens walk-behind snow blowers, starting at only $5.99. Be ready to tackle whatever Mother Nature throws at you this winter. Visit your local Horizon Ag and Turf dealership today in Edmonton and in surrounding area as well. Okay, moving on from Stuart Skinner. Evan Bouchard, we should probably touch on this, guys. It's been, man, there have been some tough moments. And the high, positives, they're just not as high as they were through the back half of last season, and certainly not in the playoffs. We've talked about that lots on the show so far, but every once in a while he has the major. And that was a major tonight, Brownie. And Coach hit him a little bit, skipped over him for a few shifts here and there. But, in a game like this with all these superstar players all over the place and such, it was a tough one for Evan Bouchard on a night where you're looking at him going, this is a night for you to step up. And it was bumpy. And it was for a lot of guys, but we're talking about him.
Well, especially when you have the comparison of Cale Makar on the other end, and you see the magic he can make. All players make mistakes. In this game, let's look at the team that won. Makar made mistakes. McKinnon made mistakes. Taves, all throughout their lineup, mistakes are made, but the mistakes are minimal. They're small. The problem with Bouch is his mistakes are huge. And on the one where he dropped the puck back, everyone, every player on the opposition knows exactly what Bouchard's doing there. They study film. They know exactly what he's going to do. And if I'm ever killing the Oilers' power play, I'm aggressive in the defensive zone, and I'm not letting Connor get the puck. Bouchard, have your way. Go on up there. We'll let you go 4-3. But we're not letting Connor get it. So they know what he's trying to do. It was nonchalant. And I think that's what frustrates fans. It's not it was just a bad play. It was just kind of, here you go. And then all of a sudden, Makar reads it. It's in, and it's a goal. So Evan Bouchard's mistakes are huge. And I think that's why they're so much more noticeable. And you could gloss over them if he's having that special offensive season, and he's not. He hasn't got a power play goal on the season, which is shocking. So, he didn't get picked for Team Canada, and I don't think was even close. He's in a contract year, and there's millions that are falling out of his pocket right now. And I know that the stats look awesome, but the eye test to me, Greg's, is the eye test says he is not the same player that we saw last year, the second half, or in the playoffs. He set a bar there, and he hasn't come close to that bar yet.
Yeah, because they have they have giveaways, but you know how you have scoring chances and then you have high danger scoring chances, and we all know that high danger scoring chances are more important and can hurt you more. And you're right on Bouchard. His giveaways are 9 and 10s, right? It's like, I tell my son, you're going to make mistakes in life. Try to keep them at 3s and 4s. You don't want 9 and 10s. Now, you'll have a 9 or 10 giveaway every now and then, but it seems like his are more frequent this year, definitely than last year. Last year, there wasn't many at all. And then we saw in the playoffs, it was an unbelievable year. And so, Bouchard has a bar. And so now the bar is higher that he set. So, you have to live up to that. And that's just a reality of it. And I think it's fair to say, hey, Stuart Skinner got to play better at times. Sure, fair. Mm-hmm. Evan Bouchard has to eliminate his turnovers. Fair. It doesn't mean I want to trade him. It doesn't mean I'm getting rid of him. And I've actually said, I believe this is actually a positive for the Oilers because what Brownie alluded to, Evan Bouchard, everyone was like, oh, they should have signed him last summer. And I was, no, they shouldn't, because he is coming off the best season he might ever have if you combine regular season and playoffs, right? Like, it's going to be hard to break an NHL record in the playoffs again, right? He just said it. So it's going to be hard to break. So, and being a point a game player as a defenseman is really hard. It's not a guarantee that you just get 82 points every year because you play on the Oilers on their power play. It's not that easy. So Bouchard's having a good year. He's not having an out of this world year. And so that's probably going to help him. I think Bouchard's going to sign a bridge deal. I really do. Because he's not going to want to go long-term because he doesn't have the year to go long-term. Now, the key is, can Bouchard eliminate that out of his game, which he's proven the last 2 playoffs. And that's, to me, the thing where I can get frustrated with Bouchard, but then I look and say the last 2 playoffs, Evan Bouchard has elevated his play when it matters most. He's been more intense consistently, and he's eliminated the big giveaways in the playoffs. So you obviously don't want him to do it in the regular season, and I get that it's frustrating, and it's not like he can just flip a switch automatically. So you hope that maybe when he comes back from this break that you start to see him trending up and, eliminate those giveaways. There'll be some giveaways, Brownie, as you said, but they've got to be more on the, oh, okay, that's a tough one, rather than, oh my God, you know what? You're throwing your beer when you're sitting in the crowd. Like, there's a different level of giveaway.
Yeah, for sure there are. And we've been highlighting him a little bit here recently. Lots of guys make mistakes, but the expectations for Bouchard are a little bit different, right? When you want to be in that realm of, a player that's considered for a Team Canada, a player that pulls a $10 million check, a player that's, plays 22, 23 minutes a night in a bunch of situations. And in the playoffs, a player who is out defending leads in the last minute of games. These are all things that Evan Bouchard has shown everybody that he's capable of. So the drop-off has been definitely noticeable this year. We'll see how the break affects him. We'll see what his game looks like. I recall at the start of last season, before the coaching change, Evan Bouchard was high up on the list of players that were really struggling early last season, and it was a pretty dramatic turnaround for him and a really strong finish in an excellent playoff. So it's going to be interesting to see how Evan Bouchard comes back out of this break. We did see him miss a few shifts at 5-on-5 afterwards. Chris Knobloch this season has, he's not overly obvious about it. He doesn't talk a lot about it. But Brownie, you notice on a bench when Leon Draisaitl gets rolled over twice for 2 5-on-5 shifts earlier this year, the whole team notices it. So does he. Has he taken a flipping penalty since? Evan Bouchard tonight. Players will notice that. Stu Skinner not up to standard, getting pulled. Players will notice that, Brownie.
I can tell you, I've been both sides of in a National Hockey League. I've been in the top 6 and I've been in the bottom 6. And I know from experience, when you're in the bottom 6 and you're getting benched for not getting a puck out, or you're getting benched for taking a silly penalty, and the other guys in the top 6 are doing it and they're not, it creates dissension. It creates, you're like, hey, seriously, he just did exactly what I did. And that's the 3rd time he's done it, yet he's still out there. If the coach doesn't hold everyone accountable, I believe he loses the dressing room. He loses the respect of the players in the dressing room. And I know that the Oilers win or lose on the backs of their stars, but you don't win or lose a Stanley Cup unless you've got bottom 6 and you've got guys playing, 5, 6, 7 defense. You need them too. So I think it is very important that you hold everyone accountable. And the message is so much bigger. If they were to put Coles in the other day, played 7 minutes in the game, wasn't having a great game, played him 7 minutes. Do you think anyone really noticed on the bench? Pod's having a tough one. They benched him. But when you bench Bouchard, when you pull the first unit off for the minute 20 left, when Leon takes 2 dumb penalties and he sits on the bench, that's when you get the attention, not of just the stars, but the entire bench.
Yeah, and it's I thought it was fair to do. And when Brownie alluded to, the giveaways, I think when you have a giveaway and you're under pressure, that's one thing. When you're giving the puck away like you do tonight, when there's no pressure around you, it's just going to sting more, right? And it becomes one where it looks, nonchalant, to use your word. I thought was very accurate, and that's how it comes across. And so it's like, hey, mistakes are going to happen. But mistakes when you're trying really hard are probably more forgivable when it looks like you're just nonchalant and no one's pressuring you and you just throw a pizza away.
The one thing I will disagree with you guys on, I don't think that starting the second unit for the next power play necessarily was the right thing to do, because I think on a night like that, like when you do that, you're punishing the whole group, right? Like, what was Leon Draisaitl's mistake on that power play goal against, right? I didn't love Connor McDavid the way he played it when he was back. Bouchard made a terrible play. You're the best goal scorer in the world who's already got one on the power play tonight. You punish the whole group when you do that. I like the fact that it was specific to Evan Bouchard. The message was sent to him, but then the first unit was told to get back out there and go find it, and you didn't punish the other guys. So unless you were going to mix the units up, why would you not have Leon Draisaitl out there to start the power play? They already had one on that night, Brownie.
But they had one off a set play. And the Oilers' first power play unit hasn't been as crisp as of late. The second unit went out there, got some extended time, and scored. And they did the things that they were supposed to do. So to me, I reward the second unit. That goal that Corey Perry scored on the power play, that was huge. Huge. You just give up the goal against, it's 4-2. That a shorthanded goal should kill you. Your second unit went out there, did all the things you're supposed to do, and they scored a goal. To me, you reward that group by starting them the next power play. It's not as much as saying to Leon and Hyman and Nuge, you know what, we're benching you. I'm saying to the other guys, you picked us up. Go out there and pick us up again.
Other play, Greg's, could have been to throw Klingberg or Ekholm or someone else out with the top unit. But I think he'd already slapped him upside the head a little bit with the even strength shifts. And Knobloch, when he does it, he always goes back to the player. He always leans back into the player in game to give him an opportunity to dig out. So I actually was okay with the way he did this. Let's get to the Weiss Johnson soundbox one more time. Corey Perry's been around a long time. He knows what accountability is supposed to look and feel like inside a healthy locker room. Here he is post-game talking about that.
And, you know, it's happened to everybody. You know, at a certain point in their career, it's going to happen. You know, you use it as motivation, and you know, you do the right things, put it behind you, and move forward. I mean, it's only going to make you better.
All right, there we are, Corey Perry in the Weiss Johnson soundbox. All right, Gregs, you want to focus on a particular Oiler forward who you think has been underperforming and maybe sliding under the criticism radar a little bit, buddy?
Honestly, I would love to do a count of how many times you've even talked about this guy all year, right? I'm going to guess. Yeah. Like, honestly, I bet you it's under 10 because there hasn't been a whole lot to talk about. He's been a player who's played, like, the most talk was when he got injured. Victor Arvidsson, how many times is he noticeable in games this season? How many times you come away and be like, all right, like, yeah, he scored a nice goal the other day. Okay, great. He's got a lot of shots, lots from the outside. I haven't seen him around the net very often. He's got 7 goals, and he's basically been stapled in your top 6 when he's been in the lineup, playing with either McDavid or Draisaitl. I have, you know, it's not like he's on your penalty kill and he's dialing it up there for you. He's not a physical guy who's creating energy on different shifts. He's a little bit like Scott Hartnell in his Philly days, where it's Arvidsson down and you could make t-shirts. The guy's falling all over the ice more than I ever thought. And I just look at Arvidsson this year and I say, of all the forwards, he might have been the least impactful in the minutes he gets so far this season. And when they go, and he's going to go play in the Four Nations and maybe gets together. And I get, when you play for your country, players talk about it's a massive deal. But I don't know where you guys come out on Arvidsson, but you know what? Jeff Skinner got healthy scratch. Jeff Skinner got dropped down the lineup. He's still got 3 more goals than Arvidsson, right? He's barely played in the top 6. Jeff Skinner has shown and Arvidsson, he's not a bad defensive player by any stretch of the imagination, but I haven't seen him make, there's a nice pass by Arvidsson, springing a teammate. Like, what has he really done so far this year that you look and say, okay, it's noticeable? I don't get it. Like, I feel like he's a player that just, when the games that you talk about the big mistakes, sure, talk about some great plays after the wins. And I'm like, I don't know what he's really doing. Like, where do you guys come out on Arvidsson? The guy's making 4 sheets. He isn't close to as impactful as Fogle was last year. Not even close. He was supposed to replace Foegele. He hasn't come remotely close to what Fogel's done at all. And I expected more from him. Maybe I was wrong, but I thought it would be more impactful and more energetic and more involved in the play, a little bit of a gnat and a little bit of a shift disturber, and I haven't seen any of it.
Well, it's funny. I've been adamant all season long that the Oilers have no second line. I've said that Leon Draisaitl is by himself, and I said that if you want to keep Podkolzin in there, well, then you better find a goal scorer. Podkolzin he keeps plays alive, and for a while there, Leon enjoyed playing with him, but they don't have a goal scorer. Arvidsson is not a goal scorer. His goal scoring days are gone. You look at the three players that they lost: Foegele, McLeod, and Holloway. Two of those guys they couldn't wait to get rid of. The fans all have more goals, and actually, I think all have double more goals than what Arvidsson has, and none of them are playing with Leon Draisaitl or Connor McDavid. I agree. To me, and I said this on we did the thing a couple of weeks or one of our last podcasts. What is the Oilers' biggest need at the deadline? I said a scoring winger, because they don't have one, and that's why so often you have Connor and Leon being put together so early in games, is because Leon's by himself. Podkolzin works hard. I love his work ethic. It's a great story. Doesn't score. He doesn't. And Arvidsson, again, as you said, there's not a whole lot. There's not a lot of physicality. He's not a big player. He tries to play bigger than he is, but you're not knocking people over. He's not a great defensive player. That's not his calling card. Has never been, well, he's a Selke guy, and he's not scoring goals. Again, he's got 7 goals on the season, as you said, and that's playing in the top 6 with, not just in the top 6, the top 6 playing with the 2 best players in the world. So I'm 100% on your side on Arvidsson.
Yeah, and the stream very much is too. Getting some great responses here on the YouTube stream. Brian says, yeah, Gregor's not wrong here. What else? Davin, it's pretty noticeable when he falls, so definitely notice him on the ice a lot. Paulie, I agree fully with Greg's here. Gregor not wrong here. Arvidsson has been disappointing to say the least, says Mellotron. Alex Kanye, he's really small. There was one about falls down above expected per 60 from Gomez. I agree. Victor's also a small forward. He will not do in playoffs with pressure. Thank you, Gregor, says Ahmed. So lots of agreement with you on the stream. Yeah, I can't argue at all. Production-wise, it's been a disappointment. I don't mind his engine. I do think that he is out there working pretty hard trying to make things happen. I don't think he's been very effective. Greg's, if you look back at his history, like there's not a lot of physicality in his game in the regular season. Talk about being a shift disturber. You see it maybe in some rivalry games or in some playoff games. Yeah, but it's not really during the regular season. That's not really his thing. Like his hits during the regular season have not been that consistent either. So I can't help but wonder if he'll be able to weave a little bit of a different narrative come playoff time. I'm not sure, but maybe. But can't disagree with anything you're saying. Some really on-point analysis there by Greg's. All right, we got to get to our Relentless Player of the Night, brought to you by UCAN Youth Services. Their annual Comedy Nights fundraiser is almost here, and there are 2 great ways you can help support youth in our community. Purchase tickets or a table for one of these unforgettable comedy nights, or you can donate items or experiences to be featured in the silent auction. Your support makes all the difference. To donate, grab your tickets at ucan.ca. When I asked Greg's if he wanted to pick the Relentless Player, he said, I don't have to do an Oiler, do I? I said, no, that is not a prerequisite. So who are you going with tonight, buddy?
Well, I'm going with the guy I thought was, his engine runs pretty high anyway, and he's a special player to watch. But Nathan MacKinnon was just a force tonight. I thought he was all over the ice. His explosiveness. Draisaitl walked him because it's Draisaitl, and just like Makar can walk guys who aren't necessarily defensemen. But I thought Nathan MacKinnon had 7 shots on goal. He was all over the ice, playing second half of a back-to-back in 23 minutes. And, he and Draisaitl and Makar were like, there's 4 superstars on the ice tonight, and 3 of them were really noticeable. But I thought MacKinnon was the most noticeable of the 3 tonight. And just, every time he was on the ice, guys, like when he starts winding up in the offensive, you got the puck in the D zone tonight, and every time you're just like, oh, here we go. And usually McDavid does that, but tonight it was MacKinnon, and I thought he was spectacular, well deserving of the first star. He was dominant. I know the first goal, sure, it's a goal that Skinner, you got to look around the screen and pick it up for sure. But you look at how many other plays he made tonight. I thought it was fantastic.
Well, it's funny. McKinnon's one of those players when he plays. I mean, you're in Edmonton. We're doing a podcast here. Everyone's going to tell you that Connor McDavid's the best player in the world. But there'll be nights where Nathan MacKinnon is the best player in the world. And
Or
tonight
Leon or Leon Draisaitl.
Yes, or Leon Draisaitl. You're right. That's how good those players are. But Nathan MacKinnon has the ability on any given night to be the best player in the world. He's that good. He won the Hart last year. He won the Art Ross last year. He's on pace to win the Art Ross this year and possibly the Hart again. He's not a one-trick pony. He is good. And tonight, you said it best. There were 4 superstars on the ice tonight, and 3 of them really showed up. And unfortunately for the Oilers, the 2 best were both on the Colorado Avalanche.
So, Greggs, I give you credit post-game in a loss. I mean, Leon Draisaitl's got 40 goals. Someone's got to ask him about it. You drew the short straw because you know he's not going to want to talk about it. He's going to be grumpy about the loss. He hates talking about himself, but someone's got to ask it. And he said, look, I'm not here to talk about myself. He gave a lot of credit to his teammates and such. He hates getting into this stuff, which you kind of like to hear and you respect. He's not going to talk about himself. We should talk about him a little bit here, though, Greggs. As you pointed out, fastest to 40 in his career so far. Pretty phenomenal, the production that we are seeing.
Well, if you look at Leon Draisaitl, so this is his 6th season with 40 goals. The only active guys with 6, Matthews 6, Stamkos 7, Ovi has 13. 40 goals in 7 consecutive seasons he would have had if it wasn't for the shortened 56-game season. And there's only 5 guys in NHL history that have had 7 consecutive seasons of 40 goals. Now, some guys, you run into injury or what have you, but even Ovi, who's never injured, you know what? He had his streak stop, not because of the shortened season. It actually happened after he had his first 5 years, and in his 6th year, he was down to 38. And then later on, he went 50, 50, 31. Like, it's hard to score 40. It's hard to score 50, but it's hard to score 40 every year. Brownie scored 40. He knows how hard it is. And I just think, like, Leon Draisaitl is, I think, underappreciated of how good and consistent of a goal scorer he is. He had 41 goals last year, which is a really good year. He's got 40 and they're 55 games in, right? He had 41 in 82 last year. He's on pace for his best goal scoring season. And it's not just that, like, his goal tonight, the first one, or the second one, starts with a great defensive read. He intercepts the puck in the offensive zone, stops it because he read McKinnon's pass and he intercepts it. Then they come up the ice. He goes around McKinnon. Great second effort to score that goal. And like, Draisaitl is playing on another level this year, honestly, as good as he's been in the past. I think this has been his best regular season. When you look at the whole 200 feet, him in the defensive zone, in the offensive zone, I think he's plus 27 on the season right now. I think it's even strength. He might have this first or second best goal for differential at even strength. So he's been awesome for Edmonton this year. And it's it's him and McKinnon for me as the heart. And because McKinnon played up until the trade, he played basically 90% of his time with Rantanen. And as Rob Brown alluded to, Draisaitl's played most of his time with Podkolzin, Arvidsson, go down the list. Like, this player's not even close to Rantanen. Like, Draisaitl's had an unreal year. When you're on a team with Connor McDavid and you are without question, the MVP of the team, that shows you how good he's been.
Well, and I said in the last 2 or 3 shows at the beginning of the game, I said, if you're starting 4 brand new franchises in the NHL tomorrow, I'm starting with Connor, Leon, McKinnon, and Makar, and I don't care what order. I'm not saying what order it is, but to me, those are the 4 best players in the world right now. Leon Draisaitl is one of those 4 best players. And I agree, he and McKinnon are the 2 best players in the National Hockey League this year, and McKinnon didn't have Rantanen. And McKinnon has Makar. Yeah. Leon Draisaitl is, to me, he's having the best season because you add in the fact he's got 40 goals. To me, he's the MVP, but you're splitting hairs when you're talking about him and McKinnon.
But you look at it, Brownie, he's got almost double the amount of goals. McKinnon has 21 goals. He has 40. Right? I think that does matter somewhat, right?
I agree. I think it's harder to score goals than it is to get assists. So 100% I agree. To me, right now, Leon Draisaitl is the best player in the National Hockey League.
Having a heck of a season. Just doesn't like talking about himself. All right, that was our takeaway segment brought to you by Horizon Ag and Turf. Brownie, you got a really early flight, so I'm changing up the order for you here. I'm calling an audible. We're going to do Brownie points now. I know. Second segment, the highest Brownie points has ever been on Got Your Back. So you better bring it tonight, buddy. You better bring it or I'm going to bury you in the back of the show.
Everything has been better. Way better. Like, The conversation's better. The mood is better.
Yeah, the fashion is better, but the hair did get a little bit worse. The fashion sense is better. The hair fell off a little bit.
Whoa. No, there's a realisticness on what this is compared to holding on to the past 10 years well past. Like, dude, this is perfect shaped chrome, nice tan, I should add, fresh back from Hawaii, compared to the power alleys, mixed in with some, monkey butt hairline in the front. Like, I'm sorry, you can't. He might have hair on it, but it's not better.
Hey, Greg's, thought it was Positive Fridays, bud.
No, it's almost Saturday, isn't it?
No, 10 more minutes. You're 10 minutes early.
Yeah.
There you go, Struds, wherever you are. Take that, buddy. My big brother's sticking up for me. Thanks, Jason. All right, roll the happy music. Zubie, time for Brownie Points, brought to you by Hamel's Premium Jerky. Great game day snack. 13 tantalizing flavors using prime Alberta beef. For the month of February, buy 2 pounds of jerky for $70 and get a free bonus quarter-pound mystery flavor pack. And as always, free shipping Alberta-wide. Hop onto albertajerky.com and order yours. Enter the code GOTYOURBACK for an additional 10% off. Brownie, the final duties for you here on Got Your Back before a nice long break for you, my friend. So have at her.
All right, I'm ready. I've got 29 brownie points to the world's best defenseman and, in my opinion, a top 4 player in the world. Cale Makar played 29 minutes tonight. 2 goals, 1 assist, 3 points. I don't have the exact stat, but he played over 3 minutes straight to finish the game, and it might have been up to 4 because he was out there. They got caught in their own zone. Then there was an icing, and then the Oilers pulled their goal, and then there was a timeout. It was close to 3-4 minutes he played out there straight.
3:34.
There you go. So Cale Makar, to me, was he has the ability. He is so good that he could actually win an MVP in the regular season in the National Hockey League. That's how good a hockey player he is. I got 87 brownie points to the best player on the ice tonight, and that's Nathan MacKinnon. Won the Hart and Art Ross last year, on pace to possibly win both of them again this year. I don't know how many sports bars in Costa Rica have the games on, but if they are, I'm looking forward to seeing MacKinnon and Makar and McDavid all playing together for Team Canada. I got 40 brownie points to Leon Draisaitl. 40 goals in 55 games. He's a MVP candidate again. He was the best Oiler on the ice tonight by far, on pace for another 50-goal season, possibly a 60-goal season. In a night where you usually see when superstars play each other, it brings the best out of them. I thought you saw the best out of Leon Draisaitl. He was excellent in this hockey game. I got one brownie point to Drew O'Connor. Whenever you get traded to another team, you always want to have a special moment, something that, you show the team this was a good move. Drew O'Connor, he's a throw-in in this trade, just like we saw with, was it Seth Jarvis that went in the trade too. There's players that just get thrown in. Drew O'Connor's that guy. Last night, though, he had his moment. In overtime, penalty shot against the San Jose Sharks. He scores a goal. That's how you make friends with your new team. You have a special moment. Drew O'Connor, good for you. In the final brownie point tonight, 12 to Corey Perry and his 12 goals on the season. He's primarily on the 4th line. The only 4 guys that have more goals on the team are the 4 forwards on the first power play unit. He's outscored every winger in the bottom 9. He's outscored the 3rd and 4th, normal 3rd and 4th line centermen. Corey Perry, when he signed, there was all the writing. Is he going to be every second game? Is he and Derek Ryan going to flip off on each other? What does he have left in him? Is he just here for the dressing room? He's got 12 goals. And I would say of his 12 goals, 10 have been important. Both goals tonight were scored within a minute of the Colorado Avalanche scoring the other way. He scores big goals. He's drawn penalties. He's taken away power plays from the opposition. He's got in the face of every goaltender. He's fought. Corey Perry has been probably the biggest surprise and the most important player, possibly in the bottom 6 for the Edmonton Oilers. Good on Corey Perry. And those, Schauger, are my last brownie points. And I will be on an airplane tomorrow. And I don't care it's at 6 a.m. I will be having a drink, enjoying my vacation.
Love it. Brownie, you have earned it, my friend. You have earned it. I got to say, I listened to you and Struds. I took a couple of days off, went to Jasper. You and Struds carried the weight for me. Oh my God. There was like 3/4 of a voice between the two of you. So you guys have been grinding in my stead, and you have deserved and earned a break, buddy. So have a great time out there. Stay safe, and look forward to chatting with you in a couple of weeks.
All right, guys. Take care. See you, Gregor.
Brownie, good to see you, buddy. Have a good trip. Enjoy Tamarindo.
All right. Oh, yeah. Tamarindo, been there. Fantastic. Should have seen me surfing in Tamarindo, Greg's. It was really something to behold.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
Oh, God. All I'll tell you.
Surfing might be the most underrated hard thing to do.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I couldn't believe, like, you get gassed just trying to paddle out there 10 times because you can't pick this, when you're first starting, I couldn't time the wave properly, right?
Yeah.
So you get up and you're barely up, and then you're up for 2 seconds.
100%.
You got to get all the way back out there. And man, my shoulders and arms were dead, but it was we had loads of fun, me and my buddy Scott. More fun sitting on the beach watching the experts, but
yeah, no kidding. There's a picture that exists of me. I've fallen off my surfboard, and not a single ounce of me, I'm upside down, not a single ounce of me is even touching water. So the surfboard and I'm completely upside down. Somehow, I don't know how, I must have jumped or something. Surfing was not great for the back, and not sure that I'll do it again, but I was a few years younger back then.
And hey, what about Corey Perry? His 2 goals tonight. So he passes Rick Tocchet.
Oh, man.
Now he's tied with Steve Larmer and Rick Vaive for 72nd all time in goals. And, he gets 3 more goals. He'll be 69th all time in goals this season for Corey Perry. And, there's a chance he could pass Daniel Alfredsson here before the end of the season if he gets 4 or 5 more. And like Corey Perry last year had 12 goals combined in 54 games between Edmonton and Chicago. And where are the Oilers at? 55 games, and he's got 12 goals again. The guy's that is really consistent for a player who doesn't play a ton of minutes, Schauger, but he always finds a way to be in the game, right? You don't see Corey Perry making a lot. Can you recall any more than a 3-star turnover this year for Perry? Right? Like, he doesn't make a lot of mistakes. He's just, I can see why the coach
tonight. He had one tonight that's about as bad as he'll make. He threw it up the middle one time tonight, but you're right. He knows. And the one thing that stands out to me, when Leon Draisaitl says this player has the best in-game management, like game management in-game that he's ever seen, that tells you something, because that's the type of thing a player like Leon Draisaitl would notice and appreciate. So yeah, I thought that was poignant for Brownie points there from Rob Brown. Okay, Greg's next segment, Core Blue Liners, brought to you by HSE Core Services. We'll put a spotlight on a specific blue liner, then break down the game. If you're a small to medium-sized business, HSE Core has your back when it comes to health and safety compliance, creating and managing a tailored health and safety program, meeting all legislation and core requirements. HSE Core supports client operations every step of the way. HSECOR.com is the website. So John Klingberg, we're going to put a focus on tonight, Greg's, because it's been a few games now. We've gotten a decent sample size, so a good time. We've talked about him quite a bit on our show, but want to get your take on what you've seen. Maybe we'll start with what you thought of him tonight, and then we'll talk a little bit bigger picture about what might be developing here and what you think the Oilers might have.
Well, the things I'm noticing with Klingberg are, the best parts of his game are starting to show more. Like, there was 2 different plays tonight where he gets the puck in traffic in the offensive zone and shows zero panic. And both times he makes the right play and finds a guy in a pass, doesn't try to force a puck through where he knows it's going to get blocked. He holds on to it. The thing I've really appreciated about Klingberg from day one is just how bluntly honest he is about, he says, hey man, I could not play defense for 2 years. I'm sucked. I want to come back to show people that I'm not a liability. And he explained why, right? I didn't have the mobility in my hips. And when I had the puck, I was okay. The minute I didn't have it, I would give too much gap because I was worried getting beat because I couldn't react. And you're like, you don't hear players, talk that openly about a weakness in their game. And when I asked him, because it was prior to today, I chatted with him in the room and I said, okay, how do you evaluate yourself after 4 or 5 games? And this is what he likes. And, hey, these things are good. And I asked him, I said, but what about, because I just had Adam Oates on my show and he had a great point. And he talked about how when he played with Ray Bourque, he knew he was excellent. He didn't realize how excellent he was till he didn't play with Ray Bourque. He said, because when Ray Bourque went back to get pucks or there was a battle in the corner, Ray Bourque had great positioning and he always, not like most of the time would win the puck battle. And that allowed Oates to save energy, not having to go defend and help and go up the ice. And so I asked John, I said, so is the hardest thing to get back in is the battles and learning the timing of the right angle to take? And he said, you're bang on. And he said, for him, it's a lot about like, are you taking the right gap at the right time? And not just when the guy's attacking your side, but he made a good point of, so when he's playing with Nurse lots, so let's say Nurse has a good gap, he has to read off that properly because he knows that Nurse is going to stuff that play. And so then he has to put himself in a position where he gives Nurse a good outlet to make the play. And he says he didn't feel like he was there yet. There was a little bit of just not reading it at, the anticipation of the timing of the game. And that's where he wants to get to. So and the battles with Klingberg, like a few times he looked a little bit off balance. And that's just because you're not going in at the right angle that you're used to. And tonight I thought it was a little bit better. I watched specifically for it. And I think that's something that, what do they have? 7 games before the trade deadline. And I think Klingberg, every game he's getting better. And that's a big advantage because if he comes even 85% to the player he was, when Dallas was in the playoffs and going to the cup, he's a huge impact player for your team.
Bobo Fett says, can see Klingberg's solid processor seeing the ice, getting up to game speed, but lots of risk reward in his approach. Was averaging just 17 and change before tonight. So one of the things I asked, I was really interested to see how he made out tonight because, and how Knobloch was going to deploy him. Knobloch told me earlier today, we haven't had to hide him. Like, we're not hiding him. Well, if there was ever a night to hide him, it's with Nathan MacKinnon rolling into town, right? And wanting to be careful with that. There were a couple of times tonight, one in particular early on, Knobloch changed into Klingberg on the ice against Nathan MacKinnon. Yeah. And the first time he did it, he got exposed. MacKinnon had a middle drive, and holy smokes, had he been hit, if the timing had been a little bit better, Klingberg would have been just completely left in the dust. So that's not even a criticism, because that happens to defensemen literally every single night. But Knobloch, he made the point, I don't feel like I need to hide him. And he changed into the matchup with MacKinnon on a number of occasions tonight. Played 4 minutes and 10 seconds, even strength against MacKinnon. Shot attempts were 8-2 Colorado in that time. And there were some tough moments, Greggs. He's not ready to take on the best of the best yet. You can tell the timing isn't there. I notice every once in a while, when he tries to really get himself up to speed, skating backwards, he ends up on his heels a little bit.
Yes.
When he's got guys coming at him with speed, you can tell he just wobbles a little bit backwards. I think it's just being a little overwhelmed at NHL speed coming at him. So I'm not sure where this is headed. I still think the early returns have been very good. I'm not sure they got a top 4 defenseman here by trade deadline. I feel like third pairing is probably the more likely. And to me, that affects what the Oilers look to do at the trade deadline. You?
I think that's fair. The problem is I'm not sure there's a right side second pair defenseman available who's clearly better. Right. I've been looking across, like, now, you think, Columbus, Don Waddell comes out the other day and says, I think I'm going to add. I owe it to my team the way they're playing to add, because you thought that Provorov, who can play both sides, would be an option. So you scratch him off the board. Rasmus Anderson was never coming to Edmonton, and Calgary's in it. So I don't think that they've already added guys. So I'd be surprised if they trade him. So, there's other defensemen out there like, hey, Jamie Alexiak. I don't mind Jamie Alexiak, but he's a left shot, right? He doesn't really play the right side. So the problem is, and I'm sure Stan Bowman looked at it, and I talked to Stan about it, he's like the right side legit top 4 D-men, they're not out there. So maybe you got to go get another, right pair third guy, but then you kind of got an abundance of third guys and hope that maybe one of them can play well for a stretch. So you're right. It's not a 100% lock that he's going to do it. But the other thing is, it's only 5 games, and, he'll have 7 more. How much better does he look? Because he was always a smooth skater. So, and I noticed it twice tonight, the same thing that you did. Like, he's going backwards and he's more in his heels. Like, he's an NHL skater. Like, that shouldn't be normal, right? Like, so is there hesitation? Is there nervousness? I don't know what it is, but you probably need to see more. And I'm not sure they'll have a real answer in time, because the good news is they got 27 more games. They just only have 7 before the deadline.
Where are you at on Rishaug and Connor Murphy? I mean, talk about
Well,
right
Connor
shots that might
Murphy is
get traded, right?
Yeah, Connor Murphy's the one I think that's very intriguing because I believe if you can get Chicago to retain some salary, which I think is very plausible. Like I look at that Jake McCabe trade that Toronto made a few years ago, and you ended up having Jake McCabe as a $2 million player. Connor Murphy has this year plus one more, right?
Yep.
McCabe had
So
two
not a
full
rental.
seasons, right?
Yep.
So you could get him for this year plus the next. And if you can get them to retain some salary, right? Even if it's only $1 million, now he's a $3 million player. What if you get him to retain $1.5 million? Right now he's at 2.5.
Yeah.
Like that makes a big difference. And I think that's what makes Connor Murphy. Ristolainen, I think it's harder. He's got 3 years left, so it's probably harder to get Philly to retain that much. And Philly feels they're a lot closer to competing than Chicago is. So Chicago's probably more likely to want to retain. And then like I don't know if they're going to have to give up that much to do it. But if you can get Connor Murphy at 3 to 2.5 and, in a perfect world, $2 million in a bit, that's a trade I'd make all day.
Yeah. All right. That was Core Blue Liners brought to you by HSE Core Services. We're on pace for this to be the longest show of the season, Greg's. I'm not sure if that's my fault or your fault. So let's hustle into break. When we come back, by the way, with Struddy on the road, guess what debuts tonight? Zubie's World. Oh, yeah. First time ever. Chris Sabunia taking center stage for the big segment. That and Take a Lap and Take a Trip. We're going to be doing all sorts of taking stuff. Lots of great podcasting ahead. Stay with us here on Got Your Back, presented by Play Alberta.
With over 18 years in the industry, Kelly Zaretsky and her team at Blue Summit Accounting deliver client-focused solutions and financial guidance for success in a simple and comfortable way. Whether it's for corporate or personal needs, Blue Summit Accounting can help with taxes, estate planning, financial services, bookkeeping, and more. Get in touch today. Email bluesummitacct@gmail.com or call 780-416-9662.
At Gallery Dental, we believe in blending exceptional care with artistry to create the perfect smile for you. From routine cleanings to advanced cosmetic procedures, our team is dedicated to providing top-notch care in a relaxed and comfortable environment. With state-of-the-art technology and a passion for perfection, we ensure that every visit is a positive experience. Join the Gallery Dental family and let us help you achieve a smile that you'll love to show off. Contact us today at secolanddentistry.com.
Coming at you live on YouTube, live on Twitter, and live on Twitch. Greg's, is your stuff live on Twitch? We're on Twitch, buddy. You guys?
No.
Well, you're missing out on 2 or 3 viewers, we believe. We think that's about where we're at subscription-wise on Twitch, but we're chipping away at it one day.
All right, buddy. Good. No, we're Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and X.
Right
YouTube,
on.
of course. So
let's take a couple of laps around the league, shall we? Brought to you by Acon. If you're a skilled tradesperson or construction professional looking for work in Western Canada, they want to hear from you. Looking for skilled tradespeople and construction professionals to join the Acon team and start building what matters today. Join Acon now by sending your resume. The email address is trades@acon.com. Once again, that is trades@acon.com. Okay, Greg, this is where we pick a couple of stories going on around the league and dial in a little bit on a couple of ones that we are finding interesting. The two we're going to hit on, the idea that Braden Shen could potentially be on the trading block. The insiders at TSN and a few others have been talking about that recently. And also the Winnipeg Jets. And I think that's where we're going to start, Greg's, because the Winnipeg Jets win again. This team, I mean, pundits still don't seem to want to pick this team to go very far or do very much, but they're crushing it. Is it 8 straight wins now? Man, what do you make of the Winnipeg Jets and the extent to which they're distinguishing themselves this season?
Well, they've been very consistent. They had a little blip for, I think it was 7 or 8 games, but other than that, they're 8 in a row. Their third line center, Adam Lowry's been out. He's a real big part of their team, and they really haven't missed a beat. And they still need a second line center. you know what? Nemestikov's a good player, but I don't think he's a second line center. And so give him credit. Like Mark Scheifele's having a heck of a year. I'm sure Jets fans are like, how the hell is Scheifele not on Team Canada? He's got the most goals by a Canadian player in the NHL this year, and he's not on the team. Like he's having a great season, but unless Sidney Crosby can't go, doesn't look like Scheifele's going to be able to go. But, Kyle Connor's having another solid season. He's going to have 40 goals. Obviously, Connor Hellebuck is Connor Hellebuck. I think the trepidation regarding the Jets and people wanting to call them to go deep is the fact that their last 3 playoffs have not been good. And, they've got Connor Hellebuck in 3 years in the last 14 playoff games has allowed 4 goals in 11 of 14 games. Right. That's 4 more. Like that's just, that's from a world-class goalie. And it goes back to our original point in the conversation is, you know what? Hey, just improve goaltending. If your team's giving up too many high danger chances, it's not going to matter. Even the best goalies in the league are going to get lit up. And, we saw that in that series against Colorado. So I look at Winnipeg. I think they need a second line center, and I still think they need to upgrade on their back end. And they got a really good team. And so they could do it. And I think their GM will probably, be assertive enough. I look at like, hey, Braden Shen would be an ideal player for them as a second line center. But the reason why I hear the talk about trading Shen, well, Shen's got 3 years left on his deal after this year, right? It's $6.5 million. So you know what? Are the Blues going to want to, like, what are the Blues doing? Are they rebuilding? Yeah. They just added Cam Fowler, right? They went out and they got Broberg and Holloway. Like to trade Shen, who's kind of like a heart and soul guy in their team, like he's not one of the guys who's like they're underperforming, I think, from what management wants. But I don't think the Blues are that good, really. Like I said at the start of the year, I didn't think they're a playoff team, but the organization's made moves to make you believe they think they're a playoff team. So you trade Braden Shen. What are you going to get back? You're going to have to take some salary because he's got 3 years at 6.5, right? So like I've heard Toronto's name out there, but maybe they make it work. They could definitely use him, but I don't know. Like they have Tavares and Matthews. Do they really need Braden Shen?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. But I mean, I agree with that. Any big name that becomes available, Toronto's, they're going to talk about them potentially going to the Toronto Maple Leafs. That's just the way it rolls here. Okay, we'll double back to Winnipeg really quick. The question I wanted to ask you about Connor Hellebuck, because you point out great statistics in the playoffs and big games, right? And that stuff matters. I'm really interested to see what happens here at the Four Nations. First and foremost, I mean, do you just got to run with the guy? Do you feel obligated to get multiple goaltenders in there, or are you okay? And the U.S. starts against Finland and then has Canada a couple of days later. How is Connor Hellebuck going to perform on this stage? Does that set him up with some big game hockey this year to maybe prime him for a better playoff performance? And if you're the U.S., do you just lean into this guy who's having an unreal year?
Well, I think it depends let's say they win their first 2 games and now you're guaranteed to go to the final. Do you play?
But are you starting him in the first 2? That's what I'm asking you. Do you play him in the first 2?
You're definitely starting him against Finland. And then you're going to get Canada. Like, I don't see how you can't start him against Canada. Right. So I think that he'll start the first 2 games. And if they win both, then I could see them going to Ottinger against Sweden. You give him a little bit of a break. I'm sure Cheveldayoff's like, hey, you don't need to play my goalie all 4 games. So,
that's just it. Yeah.
Right. So, because it's not like you're going from Hellebuck to Eric Comrie. No offense to Eric Comrie, but it's a lot different than going from Hellebuck to Jake Ottinger if you're Team USA. So I could see him, playing 3 or 4 if they make it to the final. But I would now, again, like let's say he starts the first 2 and then, let's say you lose a 2-1 game or 3-2 to Canada and he plays really well. And now you got to win against Sweden. Well, you probably play him then. So I could see him playing him all the games for sure.
Yeah. He won over a really solid performance there. He experiences some of those big games because the Jets, let's be honest, the Jets aren't going to have a ton of huge games coming down the stretch, I would think. Like they're going to be solidified and, so it'll be good to see what Connor Hellebuck can get done in some big games here if the U.S. is primed and maybe even a final game. It'd be fascinating to see him in that because, as you pointed out, the playoff performances have not been that great. As for Braden Shen, I mean, this is their captain. And what is the plan for Doug Armstrong here? Like, how long is this timeline before they want to be competitive again? And how much does moving Braden Shen necessarily help you achieve that goal? You know, he's the captain, sets the culture in a lot of ways for that group. I don't know. What do you think the asking price will be? Like, I don't think it'll be cheap. I think if he's moving Braden Shen, I know the money situation, Greg's, but you're going to want good players in return. Like, I don't know. You'd think it would take a couple of decent young players. Like maybe, I don't know. Could you get them for Broberg and Holloway if you had both of those players, do you think?
Like Edmonton, for instance. Hearing that the Blues had wanted a Holloway last year at the trade deadline, yeah, possibly. But if I look at the Leafs roster and I look and say, okay, if they're going to trade him, you know, the only really young forward they have, and he's not that young, but, you know, Bobby McCann's having a really good year. Like, they're not trading a Matthew Nyes. Obviously, they would love it, but I can't see that. Like, you know, I'm sure they'll get rid of Nick Robertson, but let's be honest, like that's not a whole bunch. You're probably going to look at some of their young guys, right? Like Fraser Minton and Easton Cowan, and maybe Toronto is willing to give up a few of their good prospects to do it, right? So that might be the direction you go. But I look at Toronto, and I know the cap's going up next year, and Tavares' contract comes down significantly from $11 million. And even if Marner re-signs, I don't think his raise is going to be significantly higher than his $11 million that he's at right, or just under right now. So they probably could afford him, but it is a big ticket for 3 years, right? Like it's $6.5 million.
It reminds me tactically a little bit of when they went and got Ryan O'Reilly. You know, like similar, you know, good player, real good player. If he's your second line center, if he's your third line center, like, you know, solid addition. It was short-lived, although O'Reilly did have 9 points in the 11 playoff games that he played, 11 points in the 13 regular season games that he played. So they've shored up their blue line. It'd be interesting to see if they're that aggressive to get a player of that caliber and at that price.
And Shen doesn't have a no-move clause or anything, does he?
I'll have to double check that. Actually, you grab that because I'm going to get us into the next segments.
Okay,
don't know.
I'll look it up there. So I wonder if that.
Maybe that'll play into it a little bit.
He's got a limited years 1 to 5 is no trade, and then the last year is so he's still only in year 5, so he does have a no trade clause. So
all right,
he'd have to approve it. And then it's interesting you just mentioned O'Reilly, right? Like O'Reilly didn't re-sign in Toronto because there were some things he didn't like about the organization. So, you know, I don't know. Like, does Braden Shen call him? And he's like, well, I don't know. But Craig Berube wasn't there, so it's a lot different now, right? It's totally different management and different coach.
For sure. That was taking a couple of laps, brought to you by our friends over at Acon. All right, Zubie, hop on in, my friend. We were discussing what we were going to do for Struddy's World tonight. I thought I might rant and rave a little bit about this or that. Then we realized, not too many people are going to care about that. Let's give Zubie a chance to have his say. So it is time for the first ever edition. Look, he's not coming in. Zubie, you ready to go, bud? Oh, he's getting the shot ready.
I thought we were going to run I thought we were going to run the thing.
Oh, were we? Okay, yeah.
I don't know.
We will run the thing.
I like to, but no, we don't need to.
God, Struddy, he's just trying to ruin you here on your first time. Like, set him up normal here.
I like to. Yeah, I'm out of the flow now.
Yeah, Zubie, come on. I want to hear your intro, Zubie. Get fired up. Let's roll.
Take a deep breath here. Time now for Zubie's World, brought to you by our good friends over at Timber House. If you're tired of those dull cookie cutter houses, Timber House is looking to shake things up. Their designs harness the power of natural light to brighten your days and lift your spirits, because life's too short for ordinary houses and dull living. Visit timberhouse.ca. In all seriousness, Zubie, with Struddy on the road, need to spread the love around a little bit, and so you stepped up. What do you got for us tonight, buddy?
I'm channeling my inner Struddy tonight. I'm going to give myself a pat on the back.
Love it.
I don't know about you guys, but the cleanliness and organization of my garage has a way of getting away from me over time. It's like a 4 to 6 month cycle, and it always starts innocently enough. A bike doesn't get hung up. I keep the big cardboard box from the new snowblower because I might return it. But before long, I'm tiptoeing through the trenches, surrounded by stinky hockey equipment and pool noodles, and I don't even have a pool. But it always ends the same way, which is that Mrs. Zubie gently prods me to get out there and tidy it up, usually because she's embarrassed and we have some company coming. And I do it, no problem doing it. I grab a couple of moose heads, fire up some Duran Duran on the Bose speaker, and really dig in for a couple of hours. And when I'm finished, it is pure joy. It is a level of satisfaction and dopamine release that is reserved for only a select few activities in this life. And it's also the gift that keeps on giving. Honestly, when it's all tidy and organized, sometimes I just go out there to look at it. I just go check. It's still there. It still looks nice. Like I might open the door and a bunch of people will be there to give me a standing ovation, or my sensei will present me with my black belt in decluttering. And it's a fun couple of weeks until the neighborhood garage sale creeps up, or I need to find a place to put the kids' ski boots, which they have grown out of, and then we start it all again. Fellas, I don't know what it's like for you guys, but that's the 4 to 6 month cycle of my garage.
Yeah, I used to be in that same cycle, Zubie. Well done, by the way. Well done, sir.
Thanks.
I used to be in that same cycle, right? Train wreck to pristine to train wreck to pristine. It was painful watching it. I decided enough is enough. It's time to turn this garage into a golf simulator. And it has been joy in there ever since. I'll probably walk into my garage and just take a deep breath and take a look around and smile quietly to myself and head up to bed. So I'm with you, Zubie. I think you got to take the step, buddy. Golf sims all the way around. You'll never have to worry about it again.
You've solved the problem, really.
I have. Get the cars out of there.
Yeah.
Get the golf simulator in there, Greg's. What kind of garage you got, Greg's?
Mine's fairly organized overall. My son does hockey shots in there all the time. My big thing was I got a stick holder for all the hockey sticks and put it up on the wall, because that was the one thing that we had, like a bucket, and I would hold them in and then it'd fall over all the time. I was losing my mind. And so I finally got that. And honestly, like sticking that on the wall was just like euphoric. And now every time I walk in and I just see the sticks lined up there, it's unbelievable. So there's never any, it lowers my stress. But I got a young son, so I got to wheel in my basketball net, and it stores it in the garage in the wintertime. So it's pretty, it's pretty full, you know. There's lots of bikes and stuff, but nothing, like there's no clutter on the floor. And I'm pretty, like I washed the floor. I got a floor washer, and so we have when we built our garage, my brother-in-law, who's like a clean freak, said put a grate in. Like I never would have thought of that. We have 2 grates in our garage floor, and I'm telling you guys,
that's nice.
Yeah, especially with the snow melting off the vehicles and everything. That isn't. I don't have that in my garage, and yet another reason why I said we need to cover this up with grass turf.
This is how anal I am now. When I come home in the winter, I stop on the road and I get out and I go around I kick off the snow on all 4 of my mud flaps. And then I drive in. Now, the good news is my mud flaps are behind the tires, not in the front of the tires, Shogger. So the snow falls off very nice.
That is fair to point out. That story has been told multiple times here on the show. All right, that was Zubie's World, brought to you by Timber Hoss Developments. Nice job tonight, Zubie.
Oh, thanks, pal.
I'm going to have to make that a semi-regular feature here and there. Let you have your say from Kelowna. Okay, buddy. Before we go to break, why don't we – I'm losing track of all our segments here. We've gone all out of order with Gregor here. Let's get to our scoreboard, brought to you by Canadian Club. The all-new Canadian Club 18-year-old high proof comes in at an incredible 58%, their highest proof Canadian Club to date. Full-bodied whiskey with aromas of caramel, toffee, spicy vanilla, and rich oak with a butterscotch finish. As we mentioned before, the Winnipeg Jets pushing it to 8 consecutive wins, 4-3 win over the New York Islanders. Elsewhere tonight, Dallas falls 5-4 to the Los Angeles Kings. Warren Fogle opened the scoring. That one goes to a shootout, and Adrian Kempe had the shootout winner there. Blackhawks 6-2 thumped the Nashville Predators. Penguins, Sidney Crosby not in the lineup, 3-2 win over the New York Rangers. And, of course, the Oilers losing 5-4 to the Colorado Avalanche. All right, when we come back, Jason Strudwick has been talking about this player quite a bit on the show lately, so I wanted to get Jason Gregor's thought in our Taking a Trip segment. Going to talk about a certain member of the Buffalo Sabres that Struds thinks would be a good fit. That plus Ask Us Anything still ahead here on the show. Stay with us.
So at Timberhouse, our guiding philosophy is naturally inspired living. We believe that through design, we can solve problems and enhance people's lives. We follow biophilic design principles in all of our builds to incorporate natural materials, natural light, to enhance all the spaces in a home. When you have your space perfectly reflect who you are and what you value, and it's made well, we think that that just leads to better living.
Ready to go all in this season? Mr. Dirk's got you covered with express on-site tailoring, a wide selection of craftsman-made suits, sport coats, and casual staples for every occasion. Score big with Mr. Dirk. We've always got your back. Visit us off White Ave, south of 102nd Street, or browse online at mrdirk.com.
All right, final couple segments of the show here. Time to take a trip, brought to you by Alberta Blue Cross. If you're planning a trip, if it's a dream vacation or just a quick little escape to watch your team play, don't forget travel insurance. Alberta Blue Cross has your back with emergency medical care, cancellation, lost baggage, and more. Flexibility, reliability, lounge access, or a hotel if the delay is too much. That is service. Visit ab.bluecross.ca/travel to learn more. So Struds brought up Jordan Greenway of the Buffalo Sabres as a potential trade target. He would like to see the Oilers add a player like this, Struds. And then Pierre LeBrun today, writing his article in The Athletic about the Oilers, interviewed Struddy, who told me he was taking the day off and then goes to work for The Athletic. So HR will be dealing with him come Monday. But once again, mentioned Jordan Greenway as a player that he would like to see the Edmonton Oilers add. So I ask you, Gregs, we know about this guy, big, strong, a bit of meanness there for sure. Can kill some penalties, but has had some injury issues with the Sabres this year. What say you about that type of player being dropped into the Oilers bottom six?
Well, he has some elements the Oilers need for sure. Now, you're looking at his penalty kill. He's really been a penalty killer the last 2 years here in Buffalo, and last season was their number one penalty killer by a significant margin. And on a team that wasn't very good, he actually had a decent. They were, I think, 13th on the penalty kill, and he was their number one killing forward, and really the only consistent one because they had a lot of guys on injuries. Like I think he was playing almost 3 minutes a game, and like the next closest guy was like, a minute and a half. So he obviously spent tons of time on their PK, and so that helps. He's a huge body. He's a good skater. He's battled some inconsistency in his career. I don't think the cost would be very much. That's the advantage here. Now Buffalo's probably going to have to eat half the salary. So it's a 1.5 cap hit to take him out of his $3 million. I don't think, the asking price is going to be overly high because you mentioned like he hasn't played a game since December 15th, I think it is. And he is scheduled to come back. So he gets in 5 or 6 games, maybe 7 before the trade deadline. But there's such a shortage around the league right now of big guys who can skate. And we all know that come playoff time, those battles here and there matter. And so I look at Edmonton and I say, okay, because Edmonton right now, like they've got a lot of guys that I find are similar players that don't have a lot of different dimensions. They don't have a lot of physicality. They don't have somebody who's just like a burner. So, he's a pretty good skater. He's not a, he's a better skater. I was looking at his top end speed than Frederick in Boston. So, but I like Frederick's a lot more tenacious, right? Like if you had to tell me which player could I get, I'm still taking Trent Frederick, but I don't know if Edmonton is necessarily the guy, but I think Greenway will get traded to someone just because they'll see the potential, they'll see the size, and the cap hit's not going to be that bad.
Yeah. Where are you at? And we'll keep this reasonably short because this is one you and I could probably go on about for about 15 minutes. I've maintained all year on the show. I mean, the Oilers are, I'm pretty sure they still are, dead last in the league in hits per 60 with a bullet. Significantly down from where they were last season. Connor McDavid hit 60% less this season, than he did previously. It's down across this entire group, Gregs. And, Brownie feels that it's fine through the it's fine. He's not too concerned about it. Struds even isn't that concerned about it. I don't love it. I don't think it's something you just flip a switch. I think that, you need to build in that competitiveness throughout a season and have that expectation. So I don't love it. I've asked Chris Knobloch about it about 10 times. He admits they need to be a little more physical, but it doesn't seem to demand it from his group. What do you think about the Oilers' lack of physicality? Is it a big deal?
Well, it's not a surprise to me because if you look at Skinner, Arvidsson, Nugent Hopkins, Draisaitl, I don't need Draisaitl hit, but Connor Brown, go down the list. Evander Kane had more hits combined last year than like the six forwards. And so Kane's out. And so that's where, a major part of their hits being down are because Kane's out of the lineup. He was their most physical player. Then I think Warren Fogle was third. But like McDavid had the second most hits amongst forwards last year, which is probably too high for him. And you know what? I think maybe he realizes, hey, I don't need to hit that much. But I thought in the game where and it was a clean hit on the boards, and I can't remember who it was where he ran on the boards a few games before he got suspended, and people got upset about the hit. And I was like, there's nothing wrong with that hit. And he said, you know what? We kind of needed some emotion. And I'm like, if your captain's the guy that's doing that, like Victor Arvidsson, who I mentioned earlier in the pod, Shager, I can go down the list of guys, Matthias Janmark, somebody else can throw a body check when you need some momentum changing. And I agree with you. Like, you don't need as much in the regular season, but you need to have guys who are willing. So none of these guys have showed me, even at a time where it's like, God, we need a hit to liven up, I'm going to go hit someone, right? We're not going to hit lots, but you got to show that you can do it sometimes. And when McDavid's the guy doing that, to me, that's a concern.
Well, I've been on an island on this show all year, pushing this. Professor Draisaitl says, Professor Rishaug pushing his hitting thesis on fresh meat. Yes, absolutely. That's what I'm doing. Because Struds and Brownie have been just like pushing me down a hole every time we bring that up. So, and listen, at playoff time, when it really matters, if they're able to flip that switch and can raise their intensity level to, whatever's coming at them, because they're certainly not going to be the team that dictates. That's just not who they are. But if they can get there and counterpunch with what's coming at them, then it will not have been a big deal. So
here's the thing, Shager. Kane, Holloway, Fogle. Now, if Kane comes back, okay, sure. But you have to have speed at times to be a decent checker, right? Because you got to be able to get there. And do the Oilers have enough of those guys that even if they want to flip the switch, can they get there often enough to make the hit?
All right. That was Taking a Trip, brought to you by Alberta Blue Cross. All right. We've had a great number on the stream tonight. We really appreciate everybody that's hopped in live, or if you've downloaded us and listening in podcast form on Saturday. We thank you for that as well. Do us a favor, throw us a thumbs up if you get a chance. We appreciate that. Helps us with our algorithm. That's what my kids tell me. Zubie, hop in, buddy. Time for Ask Us Anything, brought to you by Mortgages by Maria, the Bank of Canada, right? Lowering those rates. Then the spring real estate market is heating up, so now's a good time to talk to an experienced mortgage specialist. Maria Gallus with Maximum Mortgages offers access to several lenders and a wide range of rate options, far more than what your bank can provide. So don't settle for your bank's offer. Contact Maria today. Mortgagesbymaria.ca. All right, Zubie, what's the mood on the stream tonight, buddy? What are the people on about?
It's what you'd expect. It's lots of goaltending talk. So I'm going to jump right into this comment here from Machine Gun Yanmark. Says, this word's come up a lot, trust. He says, I honestly do trust Pickard more right now. Let's give him a run. Now, I'm not necessarily, that's not the question. What I'd like to ask you guys is, you guys talked earlier, Greg's, you talked earlier about how Skinner's game seemed to turn around after they gave Pickard the 2 games in the playoffs. He was really good. That was some of his best hockey of the year. Do you think they consider at all, let's give Pickard as sending a message, 2 starts back to back, something like that, coming back from the break, as maybe that's the message sending or the wake up call to Stu Skinner at this point?
Well, I'd be stunned if that happened, because Stuart Skinner in his previous 21 games until tonight had a .918 save percentage and a 2.29 goals against, top 6 in both categories in the NHL, over a significant period of time. So I don't, that would be pretty harsh, I think. Now, if Skinner comes out of the break and has 2 consecutive bad games, then we're talking. But he had 2 bad shots in the game. right? It wasn't a full game. It was two bad shots, and as Rishaug outlined, he started the game with some big saves and actually made two big saves after. But obviously, he made two bad plays that you want to stop at least one, but you should stop both of those. There's no debating that. But I don't think they're going to go that far. And I just look at who they play. Like, even when they have back-to-backs, and a lot of time, if you're playing Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, the starter likes to play the Monday, Wednesday game. They like to play every second day if they can. The Oilers on many occasions have given Skinner the second half of the back-to-back against the tougher team, twice in Colorado. So I think, the coaching staff clearly has a lot of confidence in him. I don't think they're going to give up on him. I'm curious to see what they do coming out of the break on who plays that first game against Philly or not. I'm going to guess it's Skinner because they've been off so long and he got pulled. But I don't think they're going to do that. I think this is Skinner's team. That would probably be it. You would need to do that after multiple bad performances.
Yeah, and it's back-to-backs. Like, they don't have to make that choice coming out of the break, right? It's back-to-backs. The interesting, though, Greg's who gets which start, because Washington clearly having the better season between the Flyers and the Capitals. So do you want Skinner to start against the Cap, or do you want Skinner to get the first game? You have an opportunity to get Skinner right back in the net after getting pulled and then play Pickard against the Washington Capitals. So we'll see what they do. To my eye, they've had a rotation that's based as much on rest and starts as it is on opponent. They have the luxury in Calvin Pickard being as good as he's been this year, not to have to worry too much about the opponent when they're deciding on that rotation. We've seen him get the odd start that you'd think maybe might have been Skinner's based on the opponent. Zubie, what's next?
This was an interesting, maybe this came up, but Shelley Sikorsky over on X pointed out, and I was able to confirm the first half of this, that Nate McKinnon has 12 points on an empty net this year. And Dry has 0. I don't know if Dry has 0 points. I know he has 0 goals. But that's a little bit surprising. Hey, I mean, that is a huge, that's a big disparity. As far as, I don't know, when we start getting into Hart Trophy talk and such. But does that surprise you, Rishaug?
I think that much of a discrepancy comes up in Hart Trophy talk because you're comparing guys' points, you're comparing guys' goals, you're comparing the type. When you get really digging down on the Hart, those are things that absolutely come into the conversation. So Draisaitl's been lugging around middle six wingers all season long and has been the most dominant player. And that stat, again, is another one that is a tick in his favor, Greg's.
Well, now Draisaitl does have 2 empty net goals. Remember, he scored in consecutive games. He has 3 empty net points. McKinnon has 13, though. So it is 10, and it's a significant one.
Okay, thank you.
The NHL record is 14 by Kucherov, because there's way more empty net points now. But will that matter? I don't know, maybe. I've never, when Connor McDavid won the Hart and he led the league in empty net points, no one talked about it. So I don't know if it's going to be that much, but if it's that close, somebody might bring it up and they might say, hey, to me,
was it close that year? Was it even close that year McDavid won the Hart, or was it a runaway year?
No, it wasn't the year that he had 152 points. Funny enough, that wasn't the year he had the most empty net points. It was, I think it might have been 17, maybe. I'd have to go back and look, but it wasn't by a huge margin, right? Like, I think he had 10 or 11, which is still, there's not a lot of guys who get double-digit empty net points in history. Most of them have happened lately, but I think the bigger difference between the two is the fact that right now Draisaitl has 40 goals to 21. I think that's the big separator between the two.
If it were Austin Matthews, we know that the goals scored would be the bigger. Everyone would make that the most important stat. Okay, let's go here. Machine Gun Yanmark also said, do you sense management has a Whopper cooking at the deadline or a tray of appetizers? Feels like the Whopper is necessary after the offer sheet. Certainly the kind of reporting that it sounds like it's the latter, but do you guys have any sense that something bigger could be cooking there, Greg's?
It's a really good question. If I'm Stan Bowman, I sure as hell ain't telling anybody that I have a Whopper cooking. So I wouldn't rule it out. I think Edmonton has shown they'll be aggressive. I know they want to take, they want to make a deal if it's a Whopper, right? Because Ekholm came out of nowhere, but he was under term. If it's a Whopper, it's a guy with term. I don't see Edmonton giving up lots of assets for one run. They want a guy. We'll give up a few good assets if we get a guy for multiple years. But I wouldn't be surprised, guys, because I think it's becoming more apparent all the time, Rishaug. They need a top 6 winger with Draisaitl for sure.
Yeah, it was interesting because Stan didn't really discuss that in the article with Pierre today. Talked a little bit about depends where you play Nugent Hopkins. By the way, I don't love this four-headed monster. I don't love it. I think it takes Adam Henrique. I think Adam Henrique needs some minutes to be able to engage in games. I don't know if he is a player that knows what to do with like 10, 11 minutes. So I don't necessarily love the four-headed monster. I think Nugent Hopkins needs to get back on the wing for me. And get, when they're in the playoffs, Nugent Hopkins is going to be a top 6 winger. So they're playing around with things a little bit right now, but to me, don't necessarily love the way this looks. Zubie, let's go one more and then let's get out of here. Because as somebody said, if there were a Rishaug, Gregor, Lalji pod, it would be an 8-part series. Yes, we all know how to fill airtime. That's what we do for a living. We are long.
We got one because before we get to Super Bowl, because this is an interesting point Chris Pike brings up here. Going back to Winnipeg, he says, is Helly going to have enough for the playoffs again? Going to be like 60 games starting wise for him. Looked tired last year in the playoffs. And interestingly, when we were having the discussion about Calvin Pickard on our last show and him being one of the best backups in the league, Eric Comrie came to mind. I went and looked him up. He's 5-7. He has a losing because he had just got a shutout. I thought, that Comrie, he's pretty good. He has a losing record. So is that maybe the only or the potential Achilles heel for the Jets is if Hellebuck's bagged because they need him to play so much down the stretch to try to secure first place in the div or whatever it is there, Schauger?
Yeah, I mean, it's a fair point. It's all about monitoring goaltender starts and energy levels through the year. Even the best don't play an absolute ton. So, yeah, I don't know, Greggs, what do you think?
He started 3 more games than Stuart Skinner last year. So I don't know if fatigue is that much. I think it might be more cumulative, right? He's started 233 over the last 4 years combined, which is second most in the NHL and quite a bit more than a lot of the other guys. So that might be it. And the thing is, the Jets have a huge cushion right now in the Central Division. So they could easily talk to Connor. If he plays all those games in the 4 nations, if I'm the Jets, I just say, hey, Eric Comrie, we're gonna strategically pick you and we're gonna play you more. We don't need Connor Hellebuck to play against the Sharks or the Ducks. If we can't beat them with our backup, then we don't deserve to beat them.
All right, final one. There's a football game or something being played on Sunday. Queen Beamy wants to know, who is Gregor cheering for, Eagles or Chiefs? So are you rooting? Do you have a rooting interest? And what's your prediction also?
Well, my son's a Chiefs fan, so I'll be cheering for him. However, my son has a hockey game Sunday night during Super Bowl. He's rather annoyed. So I'll be PVRing the game. So I actually won't be watching it to cheer live. It'll be a PVR special. I think we get to watch the first quarter and a half. But I'm going Chiefs. But I'm also I love history, man. No team's ever won 3 in a row Super Bowl. So I'd love to see it.
Zubie, what do you got, buddy? No, nobody gives a crap about my prediction. I'll just say the word Chiefs and we'll all move on. Zubie, you know what you're talking about. What do you got?
Well, I don't believe in second favorite teams, so I would never say that. I would be rooting for the Chiefs. They're not my team. I think history's great. I just think they're very entertaining to watch, and I love Andy Reid. And I hate Nick. Hate's a strong word. I don't like Nick Sirianni. It's a strange world when the Eagles of all the the Eagles are a hated team by people who don't love the Eagles. So it's funny that 2 teams, I think it's 2 very hated teams, and for people to be choosing the Eagles to root for that aren't football fans, I guess shows how hated the Chiefs are. I'll cheer for the Chiefs. It'll make Brownie happy, and I think they're going to win. I think they win a close one, a low-scoring game. If the Eagles win, it's probably a blowout like their previous game was, but I think the Chiefs win a squeaker.
All right. That's the analysis you come to the show for.
Yeah.
No, 100%. Hey, wrap up the poll, buddy. Where did that land? I'm interested to see what the people thought about Chris Knobloch pulling the starting netminder 20 minutes into the last game before a 2-week break. What did the people say?
So the DeBoer's Golf Shop and Fitting Center YouTube poll was, what did you think of Knobloch's decision to pull Stu Skinner after the first period? Bang on, 59%. And should have done it after the second goal. 30 came in second, 30%. So we got nearly 90% were in agreement, wanted it done. 7% said inconsistent or overreaction, and only 2% hated it. 300 votes on the poll and a lively stream tonight. And and a great show, fellas.
Yeah, 100%. Good stuff. Thanks for all who contributed to the YouTube poll. All right, we will wrap the show with our play of the day, brought to you by Gallery Dental. Take the first step towards a stress-free dental experience, providing modern dentistry for today's patients with the most up-to-date dentistry, sedation, implants, and so much more. Contact GalleryDentalYEG.com. I'm going to take this one. Maple Leafs rolled through town recently here, and Max Domi, who we know has carved out an amazing career for himself, despite dealing with diabetes in his career. And I'm not going to get into names because of privacy issues and such, but what I will say is that Max Domi took some time after he got back home to reach out to a young Alberta hockey player who has really been struggling this season with diabetes and a similar issue. And so through the Leafs, Max took some time and gave a wonderful shout out to a young fellow by the first name of Ryder. And I thought it was pretty fantastic. So our play of the day goes to Max Domi, and it goes to Ryder and his family and his coach, who I know listens to the podcast here. So great stuff from Max, and hope the rest of your season goes okay, Ryder. We're thinking about you. And that is our Gallery Dental play of the day. 109 minutes, Greg's. And I feel like we could have done another 20 or 30 more. We don't get to do this often enough anymore, buddy. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, thanks for having me, fellas. It's good times.
It's great. And Greg's stuff can be found, well, all over the place, right? He's got the Jason Gregor Show, 2 to 6, Monday to Friday on Sports 1440 here in town. Writes great stuff at Oilers Nation as well, and is also co-host of the DFO Rundown podcast that can also be found on the Nation Network. So lots of great content always, Greg's, and much appreciate you coming on. Let's do it again before the end of the season, pal.
You betcha, man. Have a good one. Enjoy the game,
all right,
fellas.
Zubie, solid effort tonight, Zubie. Enjoy the game.
Thanks, pal. Yeah, you too, guys.
Okay, and just to keep you all up to speed, I'm heading to the Four Nations on Sunday, but we are going to continue pushing out shows through the tournament. Brownie's taken off. He's going to be in Costa Rica. So Struds and I are still going to be knocking off some podcasts through the week, still working out our schedule, but keep an eye on our socials. We'll keep you up to speed when the content is coming your way. Have yourselves a fantastic weekend, and I will talk to you all from Montreal. Have a good night.